Cool. Let me share. Boom, we're recording. Share screen. Are we good? Cool. Everybody can see.
Looks
Yep,
good.
Joe, you're good.
All right, cool. Just making sure. So as you can see, or you accepted this wellness webinar, the weekly wellness webinar. Today is going to be about ice and heat. Probably most of you know, the acronym RICE. You need to ice an injury, or do you need to use heat? Well, that's what I'm going to go into today, and then some fun stuff that I'm into as well. So, ice or heat by your man Joe Chapman. So, first question, I'm going to quiz you guys a couple times. Since heat is more relaxing and soothing than ice, it is usually the best choice for treating a new condition. Is that true or false? We'll go 3, 2, 1. False. You would want to do ice, and this is why. You want to do ice right off of a initial injury, like it says, within the first 48 to 72 hours. So it's going to help reduce the blood flow to that inflamed area. So for instance, if you sprain an ankle and you notice it turns purple and it's the size of a golf ball or of a softball, it gets huge, you want to ice that to slow the blood flow to that area. Otherwise, it's going to just balloon up, especially as you get older. Injuries like that. You want to ice right out the gate. So like it says, it'll help reduce soreness, discomfort, limit bruising, and swelling. By the way, the RICE acronym is rest, ice, compression, and elevation. So say you are on the trail this weekend and you step on a rock, twist your foot, you need to head back home, you need to put your foot up on the pillow, ideally above your heart. And if you have a cool little ice pack like that, that would be ideal. If you don't, some frozen carrots or peas will do the trick. So why would you use heat? So after your swollen ankle is elevated for the weekend, what we're going to do is add some heat. So the opposite of the cooling, the heating is going to create blood flow to the area. It's going to help get nutrients. It's going to help heal that area after the inflammation has stopped. It's going to help relax the tight muscles and joints. So a lot of people like laying on heating pads or taking a hot shower, which is not bad. It is good. You want to relax tight muscles and stuff. You want to do that stuff. It's relaxing. I mean, everybody likes going into the sauna or going into a, jacuzzi to just chill out. Also, it's good for older conditions and arthritis. So if you have nagging arthritis and you have for some time, it would be good to not only ice sometimes, but it would also be good to apply heat. Both are good. As you can see in the last slide, the ice, just say you go for a hike and you don't twist the ankle, it'd be good to ice it and then maybe later in the day, cool it or warm it up with some heat. So ice or heat, these are going to be some questions that are pretty basic, but it will just go into specific scenarios about why you would do what. So here is John. He feels discomfort in the back of his right thigh, and he's actually holding onto his hamstring there. But John feels discomfort in the back of the right thigh. It started when he was working on a production line, and he thought it would go away by the end of the day or a few hours later, but by the end of the day, the discomfort is still there. What does he do and why? So John's going to want to ice because John, it sounded like he tweaked a muscle or it looks like he pulled a hamstring, whatever it may be. He's going to want to ice that right out the gate. That just constricting the blood flow to that area might help him. He might wake up in the morning and boom, he might be good. If it's a deeper injury, obviously ice a couple days and then start using the heat. Next, who is this guy? Ramon reports discomfort in his upper neck, and it's mostly on the left side where he is grabbing onto. So it looks like his upper trap. It's been on and off for about 10 days and generally doesn't bother him during work, but he feels stiffness when he wakes up and before going to work. say to yourself, what and why should Ramon do what he should do? He should do heat. That is a nagging injury. It wasn't an acute injury, so he's going to want to heat it up. It's probably tight. It might be the way that he's sleeping. It might be some sort of muscle imbalance. We don't know what it is, but that's going to help get blood flow to the area and just help loosen him up. To go along with the heat, I know this isn't part of this PowerPoint, but if, say, you are having an issue like Ramon is having where one side is always sore, maybe evaluate the situation. See, am I maybe walking with my book bag on one side heavy? Am I carrying the baby with one side heavy? Am I constantly hunched over and leaning one way at my desk? That could easily be something that you could find like a muscle imbalance and work the opposite side. That could maybe help solve that problem too. And I'll plug this in right now while I'm talking about it. We have the Fusionetics that were just popping up. If you have any more questions about that after, I would love to talk to you about that. So with Jessica and Justin, we'll be doing some of those screenings and stuff, especially as we get back into the wellness center, as well as workouts in there. So we have another young lady, Stephanie, at her desk, spends too much time sitting at her desk, just like all of us. And what do you know? She's experiencing low back discomfort. Well, I have a great wellness webinar, the last one that I ran about a month ago, specifically on lower back pain. So Stephanie should first go watch my wellness webinar. But what should she do right now with the ice and heat? She's dealt with it on and off for a couple years. She's seen an orthopedic doctor and has received physical therapy. Stephanie now feels like the symptoms are coming back. What should she do? Correct answer, she should do heat before activity. That's going to help loosen up, like I said, loosen up her lower back. It's going to get the blood flowing. Something else Stephanie should also do is not sitting for long periods of time. All of us, I know now, are probably sitting more than we were 3 months ago. It's super important. You know, if you have access to a heating pad at your house, that'd be great to hop on that thing, get the blood flowing, and maybe do a little bit of a dynamic warm up or a little bit of just mobility moving around. We put on mobility breaks every day, but that would be something great for Stephanie to do just to get her lower back feeling a little bit better. She might also have an injury if she's going to see a physical therapist time and time again, but there we go. Ice after. So heat before, ice after. How to use ice. How often and how long? Well, it depends where the injury is, what the injury is. But like I said earlier, you have multiple options if you don't have a fancy little ice pack. You could do frozen. There we have our frozen peas right there. You can do a little grocery bag full of ice and put a little water in it. Just make sure it doesn't leak. You have another pack right there. Definitely something to watch. This was a mistake of my own in college. I had an injury and I had a little ice bag like this, and I put it on my shoulder over here, and I fell asleep with it on. That is very bad. Don't do that. So make sure you take the ice off after a certain amount of time. Around 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes of ice. You can go back and forth. That's a great thing to do, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, the combination of heat and ice. Precautions. Do not ice immediately before physical activity. I don't know if I need to explain this, but like we've gone over, the heat is going to get the blood flowing. The ice is going to restrict that blood flow a little bit. It's going to be counterintuitive to ice before physical activity. Don't place ice directly on the skin. That's obviously going to be colder, but maybe for reasons like I just said, I fell asleep with it directly on my skin a couple years ago and was not good. I had a weird rash on my collarbone for a while, and it was numb for quite some time. So that could be dangerous. Do not use in an area if numb or has an open wound. Use caution with certain medical conditions. Avoid if you have cold hypersensitivity or cold you get hives. My dad actually gets hives, and he can't get in the cold as well. So same thing with heat. How often and how long? It'd be great, like I said with Stephanie, to use before um, before physical activity. So that would include warm-ups. That's basically what you're doing in a dynamic warm-up, is getting that blood flowing and bringing up your internal body temperature. That's going to make everything flow better. Blood's pumping from, the stomach and the heart to the muscles. It's moving. That's what we want. You want to do it after the first 48 hours and add gradual or mild exercise. Depending on the individual situation, you can use it for discomfort. So like I said, for the person with the lower back, it would be good to maybe use that at the end of the day to help relax the muscles. And here's some options here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult than just pulling a bag of peas out of the freezer, but you can get a cheap heating pad like you can see here. You can get a gel pack. Something that I think is great, two things, and I'll go into saunas later, but one is a sauna, and two is even a hot bath, a warm bath, hot bath, whatever you can handle. Jacuzzi, same thing, but if you get in the warm bath, you get neck deep, you're fully submerged. That's a great way to get in some warmth to the body. So precautions: use caution when when having certain medical conditions or open wounds. Do not use after physical activity. Like I said, you're going to use it before, not after. Do not use with a fever or evidence of infection. Reintroduce activity gradually and progressively. Use caution to prevent burns. Like I said, be careful if you're going into a full bathtub. Make sure it's not too hot. I think hot tubs probably run, I want to say maybe 103 to 105, something like that. Don't boil water and jump in it. Yeah, there we go. Bath should be warm but not scalding hot. When to seek medical attention. So you might have an issue where you think, man, this ice and heat is just not cutting it. When you can't move or bear weight on an affected joint, you might have a serious injury there. Definitely go get it checked out. We have a physical therapist, actually 3 great on staff. That would be a great thing to do. Go see a doctor. Potentially you might need an MRI. If you have pain directly over the bone of an injured joint, same thing. If you're experiencing numbness in any part of the injured area, if symptoms persist or worsen, or you are unsure what is best for your situation, best to be safe than sorry. All right. So this is a sauna you can see on the right. There's been quite a few studies that I've looked up on the sauna, and it seems to be great for people. Not only is it relaxing, like I talked about earlier, about getting the blood flowing, but there's also some, shows some signs that there's more to it than just feeling good. It might help, prevent muscle atrophy and even improve insulin sensitivity, might help neurogenesis or the growth of new brain cells, might help cognitive benefits and just overall longevity. And one of the biggest things from the sauna that people don't realize is happening are basically your body's releasing heat shock proteins. And what heat shock proteins are basically your body, it's proteins that your body produce in a stressful condition. So it doesn't have to be just heat, even though that's the name. It's a stressful condition, whether it's cold or just basic aging, any kind of stress, and the proteins start breaking down. So it basically, what the heat shock proteins do is make the proteins more resilient. So they're able to essentially, it's not anti-aging, you're not getting younger, but it's making you more resilient. So I think that that's super cool. There's definitely more research to be done on that. I saw a Finnish study. It was a 20-year study where it was men that participated in it, and they had anywhere between a 37 to an 83% decrease in cardiovascular problems such as stroke, high blood pressure, and heart attack. Another great thing about the sauna is it's going to raise your heart rate. So you're not doing anything, you're sitting there, but your body, it's actually shown it can bring your heart rate up. If you've ever worn your smartwatch into the sauna, which might not be a good idea, but you can pump your heart rate up to almost 150 beats a minute, 130. That's in the cardio zone. You're working, your body is working there, but you're not putting any wear and tear of, I have to go for a really intense run, or I have to do this or that. So it's a great way, say, for somebody who's not capable of getting their heart rate that high very easily, to get their heart rate up, to essentially get a cardiovascular workout and reap all these benefits without really putting any wear and tear on the body. So definitely a great thing to do if you don't already sauna. We have saunas in the Bill Course Wellness Center. Definitely something to get into. There's some definite benefits that you can get from the sauna. Also, it helps sweat out, toxins and all that jazz. So my favorite, best for last. This is my friend, or I wish he was my friend, Wim Hof over here, hanging out in the frozen water. And he's a little bit extreme, but he is super passionate about what he does. He actually created what's called the Wim Hof method. And basically what it is, it's a combination of deep breathing combined with cold water immersion. And basically what he does is he does the deep breathing, and then it really oxygenates the body, and then he immerses himself in cold water. And by doing that deep breathing, almost hyperventilating, it helps produce adrenaline, and actually, let's see, what did I write here? It helps release norepinephrine in the brain, which is directly related to mood, focus, attention, and can even help with stuff like depression and anxiety. So a quick study that they did on Wim Hof and some of his students was basically they wanted to see, he claimed that he could control his, basically his immune system. And he went into a lab, did his deep breathing, and they injected endotoxins into him. And through his deep breathing, he was able to control his autonomic nervous system and basically fight off the virus by controlling his immune system. So it was kind of interesting. They brought in his students and they all did the same thing. So pretty interesting study. He's a really, really interesting guy. If you have a chance, go YouTube him, and he's got some cool stuff. But basically the cold, not only has it been, they talk about it reduces stress levels, it increases alertness, produces endorphins, but it helps, it's been shown to help your immune system by basically forcing your body to have to regulate its temperature. So we're inside all the time. We don't get enough vitamin D from the sun. It's a great way to kind of get back to our roots of having to survive outside, controlling your body temperature. It's pretty cool. If you don't get anything from this, I would challenge you to do like a minute of deep breathing, lay down and take a cold shower and see how you feel. I think you will enjoy it. But my personal favorite thing about the cold showers is that it increases your willpower. It's never fun. It's always tough. It's always cold, but you do something that you don't want to do, and that's a win. So I feel like it just creates mental toughness. If you can do that, the rest of the day should be pretty easy. And as we talked also, it can help muscle soreness post-workout. That's a great way to keep that inflammation down. So get in the habit of doing both. Get in the hot, get in the cold, having your body go to work a little bit. So what will you do next? That is up to you. Definitely be safe with whatever you do. If you have any more questions, reach out to me. I'd love to talk about this. I think that, like I said earlier, because we are inside all the time, this is something that we, potentially could have something to do with why people get sick so often. You gotta get back to our roots. You got to get outside. You got to get hot. You got to get cold. You got to move. So Here we go. And if you have any questions, like I said, reach out, or if you have a second right now, feel free to ask. But yeah, I appreciate y'all stopping by and hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. And I hope you turn that knob down, get a little bit of a cold shower going later.
Hey, Joe, I have a